Hey there. Welcome to this week's episode of The Influence Gap. Cannot wait to introduce you to this week's guest, Bob Burg. Not only is he an amazing co-author of the amazing book, The Go-Giver, which has sold over 1 million copies in 30 different languages, being voted by Inc. magazine as one of the most motivational books in history, and even HubSpot puts it up there in one of the top sales books, and it's a parable. And Bob and I have just had an amazing conversation, and the message that I want to share with you today, that both of us do, is really at that intersection of giving value and commercial outcomes. So let's dive in now and let's listen and have this conversation with Bob Burg himself, co-author of The Go-Giver. Hey, this is Bernadette McClelland, and welcome to The Influence Gap. This is the show where leaders come to close the gap between intention and impact so that they can have the right conversations, make the right decisions, and achieve the results that matter the most. Well, Bob, welcome to The Influence Gap.
Well, thank you. What a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to this. To start with, I have your book, but we also met a number of years ago at the Outbound Sales Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And I have a photo of both of us holding each other's books. And there was another communication we had about a year or so ago, I think, from memory. I know I reached out to you and had a conversation to you about contributing to the fact, I think, that a lot of sales leaders had been put off in their jobs. And what I wanted to do was to provide some kind of support for them, mentoring, coaching in between jobs. And I reached out to you and we had a conversation, and we'll kind of address that through one of the laws today. And so that's the law of compensation, the law of value versus price. So we're going to have a conversation with, around that. But let's dive into, first and foremost, the fact that this book, 30 languages all around the world, clearly it struck a nerve. So I'd love to know, what was the moment where you and, was it John, David Mann, and what was the moment that the two of you got together and realized that there was a message that was bigger?
You mean after the book came out or beforehand?
Before the book came out, what was that moment?
Yeah, I mean, so this was in the early 2000s, and I had just met John because he was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I was writing for. And he was just such a fantastic editor and great guy. And he had a wonderful reputation as a fantastic writer. I knew he was a former entrepreneur and so forth. And I kind of had this very briefly sketched out idea about this concept based on a book I had out in the 90s called Endless Referrals. The subtitle was Network Everyday Contacts of the Sales. And the whole premise was that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And the way you get to that point is by focusing on giving value to others at every touch point, from when you first meet that person, whatever. So I had this idea for this book, but I knew John was the guy who could really he's such a great writer, and again, a great entrepreneur, and could really take this. And the two of us working on it together, I thought we might have something special. So John fortunately agreed after we discussed what it would be about. And, we kind of asked the question, what are if we were to come up with 5 basic principles that sustainably successful people have used from the time there have ever been market-based economies? What is it that they have done, whether or not they knew it? Because sometimes successful people do things intuitively, and they don't even know it, right? But what are those things that without any of them, they just wouldn't be as successful? with them, they would have the opportunity to be very successful. And we kind of came up with those, what we call the 5 laws of stratospheric. So they're basically principles, nothing we made up. But his great writing, was able to communicate them.
Yeah.
It was really funny because, when the book first came out and it got off to kind of a quick start, which we were very thankful for, we would be asked on podcasts, so what is it you guys have come up with that's new, that's so new, and we'd say, well, nothing.
Yeah.
You know, these are just basically principles that people have used, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I always tell people, if it wasn't for John, this book would not be what it is.
Oh, a great co-creation. So I'm just going to briefly, for those listening, share the 5 laws, because I want to ask you a question about one of them, a couple of them. The law of value, which is your true worth is determined by how much you give in value than you take in payment. The law of compensation, which is your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. The law of influence, your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. The law of authenticity, the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And finally, the law of receptivity. I get that one wrong.
That's a tough one. That's a tongue twister.
It is one. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. So they're wonderful, and you're right. You've packaged them beautifully. Which one of those laws, because who's listening to this are leaders, sales leaders, CEOs, which one of those laws do you believe that potentially leaders would break most often? Probably without even realizing they're doing it. It comes back to that as well. You don't even realize you're doing it.
Always.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the one that people have the most trouble with is the law of receptivity.
Yeah.
And it's so very human when you think about it, because the law of receptivity itself is really understanding that, you breathe out, you also have to breathe in.
Yeah.
A lot of salespeople, entrepreneurs, leaders, by nature, they're givers. They're wanting to add value. When we talk about the go-giver, the basic premise of the go-giver is simply this: it's shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. Not for any kind of way out there, magical, mystical type of reasons. No, it makes perfect logical sense when you think about it. When you're that person who can take your focus off yourself and place it on serving others, right? Discovering their needs, their wants, their desires, helping them solve and overcome their problems and challenges, moving them closer to happiness. People feel great about you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to get to know you better. They trust you. They want to do business with you. They want to tell the world about you. They want to be your right. So that when that makes sense. But you can be a great giver of value to others. But unless you're able to receive in like measure, it's going to be very difficult to really fulfill your financial potential. Now, so it's understanding that you breathe out, you also have to breathe in. It's one or the other. So you breathe out, which is giving. You breathe in, which is receiving. You breathe out carbon dioxide, you breathe in oxygen, right? And so giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. They're simply two sides of the very same coin. They work together in tandem. Here's the problem: the world around us does not give us that message. The world around us is so anti-prosperity in terms of their unconscious mindset that it doesn't matter who you are. That gets into your head and into your heart, and you can easily sabotage yourself and keep from earning the kind of income that you deserve because of all the great value you've provided to the marketplace.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was talking to somebody about the curse of knowledge. and how people have the curse of knowledge. They think that other people may know what they do, and it prevents them from giving of their services, and then in return they're not able to receive. And so there's this cycle of the give receive cycle. And I think what you're saying is this identity based thing as well. It's like, what is the value that I have to offer, and what is stopping me from receiving, and what is stopping me from identifying the fact that people actually want to receive my value, and then I've got to learn to receive the fact that they want my value. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And it goes into basically all of the laws, because when you think about it, the law of value, which says, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, this, when you first hear it, sounds rather counterintuitive. Give more in value than I take in payment. That sounds like the opposite. That sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy. But it's not. And so we got to look at, well, what does that really mean? Well, it's understanding the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth. This is important. The relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing?
Yeah.
This product, service, concept, idea that brings so much worth, so much value to another human being that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. A very, very quick example would be
Yeah.
the accountant who you hire to do your taxes, right? And they charge you, we'll name around here, $1,000. That's their fee, literally their price, $1,000. But what value do they give you in exchange?
Yeah.
Well, their years of knowledge, their hard work, their desire to get to know you and your needs and how to serve you best. They're able to save you $5,000 in taxes. They save you countless hours of time that it would take to do yourself, freeing you up to do what's more productive. They provide you and your family with the security and peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly. So they give you well over $5,000 in value,
Yeah.
exchange for $1,000 fee or price. They gave you more in value than they took in payment. So you feel great about it, but they also made a very healthy profit because it was worth it to your accountant to trade her time, her knowledge, her energy, right, for that $1,000. Now, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
No. I'm listening. I'm definitely, and yeah, people need to hear this.
And so now we say, okay, and now, that's fine, but every accountant basically does that, right? Okay, so that's fine. So what separates you? What distinguishes you in the marketplace? What makes it so that they choose to do business with you? Well, there's two types of value. There's the intrinsic value, which is what we just kind of went through. She's going to save you money, she's going to, right, and so forth. But then there's the extrinsic value. That's the over and above. That's what dictates the customer experience. It makes things so special. This is a matter of, excellence, consistency, attention, empathy, appreciation, all the things that make this experience with this accountant so very special, right? That you're willing to pay her more than you would pay, even though you might be able to get services less expensively, right?
Yeah.
So so that's the key. And that's also where you talk about the knowledge, about thinking, well, anybody could do this. Well, no, not everybody can do this.
Correct. You're right there too.
That value,
You're right.
regardless of what you do, that other person doesn't have.
It's interesting because with you talking about this value price thing, it just triggered for me, and in the sales environment, it was years ago. I worked at Xerox, and sorter bins had just come in. When you can all of a sudden you can do pages 1 to 10, and it staples automatically, rather than having to do the boardroom shuffle. Walking around the table picking up all of the pages, which took time. And it was this particular school business manager. And purely by chance, well, I'll say it was engineered by me as being a good salesperson, but purely by chance, I identified the fact that the board reports that she had to collate every week or every Friday, whenever it was she did, meant that she couldn't pick her child up from school. Now,
Mm,
here's the thing, with the sale of that particular new piece of equipment, which they needed anyway, the intrinsic value was that she was now able to pick her child up and didn't have to work overtime. And
mm.
so that value, so what you're saying, I'm trying to translate it into a sales environment. If salespeople understand a little bit more about what matters to their buyer, then perhaps they would be in a better position to be able to have that value price.
Let's
Does that
let's
make sense?
let's take your brilliant statement and take it a little deeper even.
Yeah, yeah,
This is why the discovery aspect of the sales process in your sales conversation is the most important element,
agreed.
because remember it's the relative worth or desirability. Value is always in the eyes of the beholder.
Mm,
It's not
yes,
what we think is of value about what we do, or what we think they should think,
yes,
but what
yes,
they believe is of value,
yeah,
right? So when we ask the right questions and we listen, not as a way of sharp angling them into a close, but when we listen to truly understand their needs, wants, desires, understand their weaknesses that we may be able to help them mitigate, or their strengths that they don't even know they have, which we may be able to help them leverage. When,
correct.
when we listen to everything, when we clarify diplomatically and tactfully, respectfully ask them to clarify so that we know that what they said and what they meant is what we heard and what we understood. Okay, they are telling us, as my great friend Jeff West says, they're telling us what they need to hear, right? It's not us telling them what they need to hear, it's they're
Correct.
telling us what they need to hear. She's told you what. So when we dig deep enough and we find things out about what it is that this person values, now and only at this point are we able to connect the benefits of our product or service with their needs, wants, desires, challenges, strengths, weaknesses, what have you. And
Hmm.
so that's where we really are able to communicate that value. It's not through what we say; it's through what we listen to.
Yeah, listen to. And then I'm imagining here that that would eventually lead into the law of compensation, because what I'm thinking is that and this goes back to a conversation I had with a client years and years and years ago about price, and they said, look, Bernadette, we'll go up above the competitor that much, and we might go a little bit further because of the value, because the needs or the listening had been done, but we can't go that much higher. And so that to me demonstrated the linking, I suppose, and I'm now linking it to your book. So the linkage of value driving into compensation. So am I right there?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. One is, the value. Uh, John coined a great phrase that we used in the follow up book, "Go Givers Sell More," and that is, money is simply an echo of value. It's
Mm,
the wonder, if you will, to values lightning, which means first the value must be communicated, which means it must first be discovered, right? So the money we receive is a natural result of the value that we've provided. Now, when we and that's basically the law of value. When you go into compensation, now it's a matter of how many people you serve.
okay, yes.
Okay, so when that first client knows us, likes us, trusts us, and they are happy to refer us to someone in their world, and we're able to get in front of that person and be able to go from that premise. Now we have an opportunity to add more value to another person. And just like our accountant, she did such a great job for you, right? So if you're her client, the chances are you're very happy with her. You would use her again, and you'd let other people know about her. and her other clients feel the same way about her. So our accountant is very quickly amassing an army
Yeah.
of, personal walking ambassadors who are
Yeah.
praises, and to the degree that she's able to serve more and more people, that's the degree that her income will rise.
Got it. Yes, yes. And I love that the ambassador, the walking army of ambassadors. I love that phrase. Um, Now, one other point, one other question I'd love to ask you about, and this is purely from a curiosity perspective. I hear the word, and it's one of the laws as well, the law of authenticity. I
Uh-huh.
hear that word bandied about so
Uh-huh.
much out there, and I love the word congruence. In fact, congruence is one of my pillars. It's the first pillar where for me we're born authentic, like we are all authentic already, we just layer masks, so it's just kind of the removing of the inauthenticity, but we are already authentic. So I'd love to hear your take on authenticity versus congruence.
Well, it first of all, I would define authenticity itself. Now, the story, the law of authenticity says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself.
Correct, yeah.
Uh, and the mentor in that part of the story, Deborah Davenport, shared that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are indeed very, very important, they're all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you do, people not only feel great about you, but they're very comfortable with you, and they feel very safe.
Mm,
Why wouldn't
mm,
they know who they're getting? Now, that said, I think the word, and you raised a great point, that the word authenticity is just bandied around so much now.
mm.
I cringe sometimes when I
Yes,
see what, it's almost like authenticity has now become almost defined in people's minds as having no boundaries, right? Just say,
correct.
do whatever you want, use whatever language and insult or do this or that because, well, you're authentic, so it's okay. Eh, I respectfully disagree with that. I think that would be like the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people a lot. And if I were to act any differently, that wouldn't be authentic of me. And I would say that's a lot of malarkey.
Yeah.
Simply means that person has an authentic problem that he needs to authentically work on,
Love that.
a more effective, authentic version of himself. So we never want people to confuse authenticity with not growing. So
Mm.
I personally define authenticity as acting congruently with your values.
There we go. I totally 100% agree. Totally 100% agree. And under pressure today, which so many leaders are under pressure today, they begin to trade something, which is, potentially they are saying that they are authentically this way, but under pressure, they bend.
Yeah,
And I think that's where they lose the congruence. So,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. And I suppose coming down to the fact that the Go Giver, based on giving value in and commercial success, so you're marrying up two things there. Um, it's one of our most human needs. The desire to grow and the desire to contribute. I mean, they are our
Yeah,
spiritual needs.
sure they
Not
are.
everyone has them. So we go back to what you said before. Not everybody aligns to those, but they are two of our spiritual needs, the two spiritual needs.
Mhm.
So I have a question, and it's in relation to the fact that there is this also this thought process of servant leadership, which is wonderful. Is there a line that you believe that we need to be careful not to step over where it becomes one of overserving at the expense of?
I
So,
mean, I think it always depends how you define a term. So, so can we over serve? It's like saying, can we over can we overgive in terms of value? I think rather than overserve or overgive, I would say it's more, are you or is one doing these things inappropriately as opposed to too much? So, for example, let's take
Mm,
sales just for a second, then we'll go back to
yeah.
relationship. Okay, when someone says, "Well, Bob, I'm giving value all the time, and but nothing's coming back, but I'm giving value all the time," and I'll tell you, 90% of the time, it comes down to they are giving value in a way they see it as being of value. But remember,
Mm,
the beholder. So if other people aren't feeling as though the value you're providing is of value to them, it isn't valuable. Okay.
yeah.
Not that you're over giving, it's that you're giving inappropriately. When I say inappropriately, I simply mean in a way that the other person doesn't find to be of value.
Mm,
I think it's the same as if you're, if you're a leader and a leader job is to serve. They are serving those in their organization. That
correct.
is leadership. Okay. Can you overserve? Uh, I'm not sure how you would overserve, but I think you serve inappropriately if you're doing things that are not of value or helpful to those people in your organization.
Or be a doormat.
Okay, now that's different.
Mm, yes.
People often ask, well, so Bob, as a go giver, can you be taken advantage of? Well, first, it's important to say that there is nothing about being a go giver that is in any way congruent with being anyone's doormat
Yeah,
or
correct.
self-sacrificial in any way.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
yeah.
Now, can you be taken advantage of? Well, anybody can be taken advantage of. And I mean, unless you never leave your home, you probably at some time in your life will be taken advantage of.
We all
Okay.
have. Absolutely.
But if someone has a pattern of
Mm,
being taken advantage of, okay, my suggestion would be it's not because you're a giver, it's not because you're nice, and it's not because any other, it's because you're doing things in a certain way that creates the environment for people to take advantage of you.
love
Okay.
that. Love
But
that
that has nothing
explanation.
to do with being a go-giver, which is simply understanding that to the degree you can provide value to others in a marketplace, in a free marketplace, that's the degree that you're also going to prosper.
Absolutely. And to also give value to ourselves. I think that's a key part of this as well, is not to lose sight of our own value. So
No,
okay, so if someone's listening right now and they're stuck, or their team, if they're a leader and they've lost their mojo, and what do you think might be one of the first things that they could look at shifting from a go-giver principle law perspective, that maybe it's something that they can do or they can say?
well, I mean, the first thing I think you have to look at is, is our marketplace seeing that what we have to offer is of value to them? One of the things I used to say when I was on the road speaking all the time, not, I'm 68 years old, so I'm off the road. I do virtual keynotes, but I don't get any more planes. But that's what I did. And I'd be in these rooms, salespeople, and I'm good salespeople. And one of the first things I'd often say is, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not going to buy from you because you have a sales goal. They're not going to buy from you because you need the money. And they're not even going to buy from you just because you're a really nice human being, even though I'm sure you're a nice human being. No, they're going to buy from you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so.
Love
And
it.
that's the only reason why you or I should ever expect anyone to do business with us, right?
Yes, totally.
First thing we need to do is we need to ask ourselves, where we are in the marketplace in terms of the value people place on what we do. It begins there.
Love it, love it, love it. So, okay, the influence gap is really the space for me that I'm providing, where I'm helping leaders take creating the space, I suppose, for you to um, take your message or your intention and continue to make an impact. And it's that space in between for you personally, with your message and your mission and your army of ambassadors that you want to build and create. What's going to take you from good to great and beyond? What is that in that gap for you, Bob Burg?
For me personally,
Yeah, or for the movement. It's a
well, I
movement.
mean, I think to the degree that people continue to do what they've been doing, which is really spreading the word about the the book itself and so forth. That's where it all begins. So we've been very fortunate in that way that people have embraced the message, and entire companies have put it through their teams and the whole bit. So we're John and I are both so very grateful for that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, before we wrap up, just the usual question, Bob. Where do people contact you? I'm assuming it is Amazon.
On Amazon, or they can go to
Go
Burg,
get
burg.com would be the best place,
it.
and
Okay.
there they can read chapter or two of any of the books in the series to see if they like it first, and while they're there, if they like, they can subscribe to my Daily Impact Substack.
Oh, great. Yes, I'm on Substack. I follow you. I do follow your work. Yes. We'll put that in the show notes. That's great. Now, before we leave, I have what's called rapid fire, and just one word answers. And I'd love you to oblige in this little part of trivia. So let's dive into this.
They have to be one word.
One word, if you can do it.
I'll do my best.
I'm sure you'll blitz it. What do most leaders forget when they're under pressure?
There's no way I can answer that now. It would have to be that they are there to serve those they lead, that their job is to create the environment where those they lead can thrive.
I knew this. You know what? I tell people when I ask this, people can't count. Anyway, what is the one thing that kills a deal faster than anything else?
Probably commission breath.
Aha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you need it, want it too badly, and they know it's not their well-being that you're looking out for, but it's your own.
Yeah, it's an energetic thing. What quality separates a good leader from a great one?
Again, one word, I can't do it. I think Jim Collins did this beautifully in his book Good to Great, the difference between the level 4 leader and the level 5 leader, both just as talented, but the level 5 leader had the good of the organization and those lead first, whereas the level 4 leader, it was all about them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we could go with probably ego there. What is the foundation of all? What was that?
That would have been a good one.
That would have been a good one. What is the foundation, do you think, of all influence?
The foundation of influence, pull as opposed to push.
Yeah. Now, there you go. You got that in one word. And lastly, what word would you want people to use when they describe how you made them feel?
Encouraged.
Love it. See? You've got it. Elephant stamp. Go to the top of the class. Bob Burg, it's been an absolute delight. I really look forward to having this conversation with you. And I know that the ideas that you've shared are certainly going to influence so many other people. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. And to all our listeners, we'll see you here this time next week. The Influence Gap. Bye for now. That's a wrap on today's episode of The Influence Gap. If this resonated with you, share it with a CEO or a sales leader who you think needs to hear it. And make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss one single episode. If you are ready to close the gap between your message and the impact you want to make, come and find me at BernadetteMcClelland.com. I'll see you this time next week. Bye for now.